You're about to watch a video that I recorded 3 years ago before my life changed in a few ways. Before the birth of my beautiful baby boy, before going from single to a family of 5, before my engagement to my beautiful and amazing fiance, and before I fully understood the power of self-trust. In this clip, you will see that I am realizing something that many women experience in relationships. I was performing love instead of living as the woman who truly embodied love. If you're rebuilding yourself after heartbreak, this conversation about self-concept will completely change how you approach relationships and boundaries. See for yourself. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Intuitive Wanderess. I'm your girl Asha and I am so excited. I feel like I can't get that out enough, but I'm so excited. I like to only come up here and talk with you all when I'm like super excited and I want to share something that's just meaningful to me. And it always reminds me of how like as women, we're just, when we know something and we're just in that juicy space of wanting to just like, oh my gosh, I gotta let my sis know this. I gotta let my mom know this. I gotta let my girlfriend know this. When we're in that space, like the world just goes around. And that's exactly where I am right now. And I'm just super excited to share just these downloads that I had while I was just reflecting. Okay, let's get into it. The title of this episode is going to be related to self-concept and becoming a wife. So if you have joined us, it's because you want to be a wife, you are a wife, you are curious about becoming a wife, whatever. Welcome. So happy that you're here with us today. So one of the things that has inspired this video is my lifelong journey to become someone's wife. Jesus, I'm just trying to be someone's wife. But I spent about, embarrassingly enough, no, I'm just kidding. I spent 10 plus years in a relationship, and it was a beautiful time, but I noticed that as the relationship progressed, naturally I wanted to become a wife, and Bay wasn't feeling it. Or maybe he was, but felt like he was incapable of doing it. And I definitely went through my own spiritual journey of, just dealing with childhood traumas and life traumas of just rejection and abandonment and asking for too much. Maybe I was taking up too much space. So there was just a lot of energy of me having to like release. I had to release a lot of these old paradigms. And one of the biggest paradigms for me was, I'm doing everything that I think I'm supposed to do. I'm being a wife right now to him. Why doesn't he want to marry me? The obvious thing that we can look at from the outside looking in is like, boom, he's not going to want to marry you because you're already being the wife. Why do we need to move forward with something more official when he can just have you as his girlfriend who is acting as a wife for all these years? And that troubled me because it was like, well, how do we move through getting to know someone, being with them, loving them, and coming to a mutual decision that you want to spend the rest of your life with this person? So after that relationship ended, I definitely took some time for myself to just regroup and go through the grieving process of losing that relationship and losing those years, honestly. And I had to continue to reformulate that and see it differently and see how it really was just absolutely necessary for the journey that I'm on. But I'm gonna be honest with you, sis. I'm gonna make sure that you don't have to do that or spend so many years in the dark. That's what I'm here for. So after getting out that relationship and after being in another relationship that was really nice, I feel like I started stronger. I came into the relationship with firm boundaries, and those boundaries were respected, right? Like my standards were higher. I knew what I was worth more compared to my previous relationship. And then eventually, I wouldn't say I caved, but once I met my threshold where I was like, oh, my standards, all the standards that I've put in place have been met, I fell into being that wife, because with the idea of manifesting, self-concept, getting what you want, you have to fake it till you make it, act like it's in order to see it in reality. So that was mistake number one for me, because I was being a wife to men who were not being my husband, who were not my husband, and that confused me. It confused me a lot. I would be supportive, I would be nurturing. I was being everything I thought a wife should be in hopes of attracting becoming a wife. And it brought up a couple of things for me. One of the things that it brought up for me was, what exactly is a wife to me, right? Because does being a wife means being supportive to the point that you kind of lose yourself? Does it mean being nurturing to a grown-ass man? Does it mean not asking for too much and not taking up space? Like, that's how I was maneuvering as my self-concept as being a wife, and it just wasn't serving me. I was being that good wife, that good girl, and I was being essentially walked over with. I was walked over. There was a reoccurring pattern that was happening in my relationships. Different men, same situation, and it would be like this: I don't know. I don't know if I want to go forward and marry you. I'm not sure. I've had my own, and their reasonings were different, but essentially it came down to the same thing, which is they were uncertain about me. And of course, that's like a gut punch. Like, damn, that's a hit to my ego. But the type of person that I am, I know that I create my reality, and I know that all of this is simply a projection. So when someone's telling me that they don't know about me, essentially what they're reflecting back is the fact that I don't know. I'm not certain. I'm not secure in this decision that I am a wife. So, as I started to kind of like realize this in the course of this next relationship, I realized, I am trying to do this self-concept thing in the completely wrong way. I'm trying to embody a wife without coming from the perspective of a wife. So hear me out here. When I started to, and I've done this practice on so many things, so it's just kind of mind-boggling that I didn't think of it here, but I've done this practice before where I will visualize a version of me that I want to be. So if I want to be a boss who has her own business, I would envision this woman and I would think, what is this version of Asha? And that's ultimately what has emerged the intuitive wanderess. Like, I got really clear on what it meant. What did she embody? What did she look like? What did she feel like? And it was a lot of who I already was, but it was just more. It was bigger, and it was unapologetically. So the same thing that I did with that practice and continue to do with that practice, I'm realizing it's so vital and so pivotal, and it's freaking golden to do that in everything, especially when it comes to this wife. I thought I was doing it though, but I wasn't. So what I realized was, look at it from the perspective of the wife that you will be, right? I know it's important to be it now, but kind of look at the future version of you and use her as your North Star, use her as your guide so that you can follow her steps to get there, rather than just jumping there and kind of filling in shoes that you're not prepared for, right? I almost think of it like a kid looking out the window of a really expensive store, looking at the clothes and like imagining themselves and wanting to emulate the model or the mannequin that has on that outfit. I can only go from that perspective. I can't go but so far. So what I was doing was I was looking through the window of what I thought a wife would be, rather than embodying her so that I can backtrack and figure out what got her to this point, rather than just, oh, let me just pretend to be I was playing dress up, essentially. I was playing dress up and pretending to be a wife, and I was getting burned. I was getting hurt because I was not attracting the true experience of being a wife, because I was not one. I am not one, right? So when I started looking at it more of a future-oriented way, And I started looking at, let me really, really, really tap into this version of me that already exists. Honey, there's already me that's a wife, that has a ring, that has a man that she adores and adores her. So what is she doing? What did she do? What exactly did she do? Because I'm curious, right? So I ended up going down the list of just envisioning her and thinking about like what she needed to do to get there. And that's when it's like my mind started working in my favor. Things started to kind of just like, okay, well, she definitely had standards and she did not let up until she got her full manifestation. She's not going to let up on her standards just because the man has fulfilled them all. If he's fulfilled them all and she still doesn't have a ring, she needs to have more standards. Because her main standard should be, I'm not going to engage with you fully until we're married, because she wanted to be a wife and she became a wife, so she had to have done that. We're not going to lend any of these goods. We're not going to lend any of this wifely energy, this divine feminine energy that men completely adore and enjoy and are smartly going to just take if it's free. The future version of me, the wife version of me, would never. She would never, honey. She would never. So that was humbling. It was humbling because I realized, dang, I've definitely wanted to be a wife, but I wasn't like truly ready to be a wife. I wasn't deciding that I was going to be a wife. So therefore, I was kind of just hovering around the perimeters of being a wife. I was looking out the window or looking through the window of this really amazing idea of being a wife without actually taking it, without actually owning it, because I have that power. So needless to say, that has led to the end of my current relationship. And me just feeling empowered, where I would usually feel sad over a breakup, I felt empowered. I felt clear. I felt like, oh, wait a second, let me go ahead and review and just kind of journal through some things that weren't being met, some needs that weren't being met, and let me kind of just adjust my crown. Let me really just reorganize some things. And yeah, I just feel like, duh, why the heck did I not think about that? And it simply was, I just wasn't making a full decision. There was still a part of me that felt like I wasn't worthy of being a wife. There was still a part of me that felt like I had to earn it. But when I tap into the Asha who's already a wife, that woman, she's like, girl, if you don't just hold your standard and stay firm and say no to absolutely anything and everything that doesn't look like it. So yeah, I just really wanted to share that with you because I know there's a lot of information about self-concept and there's amazing videos out there. I found a lot of really informative, fun videos and topics where people are really just diving in on manifesting and creating the life that you want to live. But I wanted to share with you my perspective and what I've just recently learned. And yeah, I'm embodying a wife in a way that's not being a wife to anybody right now, but being the woman who became the wife and doing everything that she did to get there. So I'm not going to give you specific things on what you should do because you know what a wife is to you. You know what that looks like. And if you don't, journal it. If you don't, look into it, reflect, get curious, give yourself the freedom to create the construct of a wife for you, and then go backwards. Go backwards and ask yourself, future version of me, like, what did I do to get here? And I promise you, you keep journaling, you keep reflecting, you are going to get those answers. It's going to be obvious. And the things that you may have been struggling to do, like setting boundaries with men or remaining celibate or whatever it is that you choose, no judgment. Whatever it is that you choose that you were struggling to do, it's going to become easier because you're going to be aligned with that version of you who you know got what it was that you were asking for. So I hope that helps. I'm so excited and so excited to share this with you. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else. I love you all, and until next time.